All right, we got the cushy chairs here. You may see the top of our heads in the back there, but thank you for joining us.
Yeah, great. Good to be here.
So you just saw that for the first time, so I'd love to hear impressions. Like, what do you say, wow, I really agree with that, or I totally disagree with that? Where'd you like to start?
Wow, that's sort of like being invited for dinner and somebody asking, how do you like the entree when you're halfway through?
We're open.
But I do think there's half the audience is probably choking on a bone because while I think there's a lot of, I thought it was a great talk. You hit all the right trends. However, I think there's a lot more headwinds in the near term for a lot of initiatives. And I think that's because during the pandemic, we saw this at Oracle internally, we saw it with a lot of our customers. What else were you going to do but spend money when you're at home? If you were a marketer, if you were a media professional, you had to figure out ways to continue to transform your business as buying and marketing patterns change. So you bought technology and you tried to implement that technology. So I think this is phasing in and out. Okay. And I think during that process, we adjusted to this concept that, this is the new normal in MarTech, AdTech spend. And I don't think that's the case. I think we've yet to see where it's going to bottom out.
So curious on that one. Obviously advertising is something that's easier to dial up, dial down. On the MarTech side, being SaaS solutions generally, same thing. You think? Since you talked to the biggest brands out there, what?
I think discretionary budgets were continuing to grow over the 5 years leading into the pandemic, and so I talk to a lot of startups that will come in and say, we are deployed at 100, 150, 200 customers, and this is what we're doing, and it's great, and here are our use cases. When you really dig into it, very few of them have really been kind of absorbed into the core operations of the business yet. You have departments that are using them. So I think we got some false positives on maybe how critical those technologies were to the marketer, how much ROI there was. We also underestimated, as you and I have talked about, the complexity that it added. A lot of marketers became system integrators, and we're trying to figure out, how do I deploy on 15 different clouds and share data and normalize formats and all the things you have to do. And I think it became very complex. Add to that when the CFO is breathing down your neck now saying, wait a minute, we got to take cost out of the business. And one of the big things I'm looking at is discretionary spend, because nobody wants to go after headcount until a last resort. That's some of what I think companies are going to face now. And every company, Oracle, large companies, small, everybody's going to face that reevaluation of what's critical to have in my front office stack. So I think you saw it less in MarTech than AdTech, because it's not you can't just turn off an insertion order. But you also, a lot of these technologies, the implementation wasn't that hard to do. But when you really try to make it a core part of the operations, it became more complex.
So you obviously touched on this. So one of the debates forever, since you were at Adobe and other places and at Lithium, is do I go best of breed or do I go kind of full stack? I think the majority of this room would argue best of breed.
Except for Lonnie, she would agree with me.
There we go.
Yeah.
So what are you hearing along those lines? You mentioned system integrators and enterprises becoming them, et cetera. But what are you hearing from the big enterprises along those lines?
So it's maybe a kind of a multi-part answer, but I'll give if you step back and look at a 30,000 foot level, the front office, and I'll talk about marketing and sales together, generating demand all the way through to orchestrating and choreographing an increasingly digital sales approach where you can't, you're not oftentimes not traveling to customers anymore. There is so much complexity across the best of breed stack in that I think it's gotten to that breaking point of where it's unwieldy except for the most highly advanced, complex organizations who have huge numbers of data scientists and individual developers. So what we are hearing is we love all the functionality. We love the idea that we can improve engagement through a variety of ways, but we want to reduce the complexity of our buying cycle, and we want to move to suites. Now, that may be self-serving because I'm Oracle, and I show up and, oh yeah, of course, we want to buy a suite from you, but I'm hearing that a lot more. Now, I used to hear, do you do this, or we just bought this company and they have this feature, and can you do this? Now it's more about, I'm under pressure. I have a financial target I've got to hit. I don't want to compromise on functionality, and I want to unify a lot of the capabilities into a suite as much as possible. So that's the approach we took.
And you announced Fusion Marketing, which, we read the release, it sounded B2B centric rather than B2C centric. So that's, what is your focus now? B2B, B2C, et cetera?
Yeah, so first, I'm going to guess that Fusion Marketing doesn't roll off everybody's tongue here. So let me just describe what that is. So you can look at a company like Oracle that has a huge lead in the back office. I mean, I think we are, and Larry says it often, we're the undisputed leader, particularly now in cloud ERP, and probably the leader in cloud HCM, although it's always close with Workday. But we believe in certain key areas we have the lead, and we've been a distant second to Salesforce in the sales space. The pandemic and the changing patterns gave us an opportunity to sit back and say, what is it that the industry really needs to make the front office operate like the back office? People say ERP like it's one thing. It was a lot of things before it became ERP and before it became a suite. And we think the front office needs something very similar to that. So we took all the technology that we've bought over the past 5 years, everything, and much of it in the ad tech space as well, and said, how do we create an experience? And we started with B2B because that's our stronghold, and we think the problem is slightly less complex for B2B marketers. We said, how do we go to everything from building a first-party behavioral profile system, enriching that with all the attributes you need to effectively target and connect with prospects and customers everywhere you can, run that through a process of designing a campaign, marketing, advertising, mobile, whatever that touch point is going to be, collect all those signals and generate a qualified opportunity into any sales system. And then when it's in a sales system, realize the way people sell today is a lot more about capturing digital signals and choreographing the journey for a sales rep, especially as you're onboarding new sales reps. There was some stat I read that about 1/3 of the B2B sales reps today have never set foot inside a company office.
Wow,
right?
That's staggering.
So they have their entire relationship with their company is as a box on a Zoom. So you don't have the ability to say, let's sit down and I'll tell you how I sold Albertsons years ago, or you have to choreograph that whole journey all the way through proposal generation, creation, and deal close. So you truly have that closed loop all the way from capturing the first-party data, enriching those signals, and driving a sales process.
So I imagine Eloqua is kind of the center of that, since that's been a long-time leader in marketing automation. What are some of the other elements that have been pieced together?
The concepts behind Eloqua are a core part of it, but in typical Oracle fashion, we've rewritten the entire stack from scratch. So we took everything we learned from Eloqua, Responsis, Infinity Maximizer, all of those technologies, a lot of what we learned on the data cloud side around measurement and viewability and how to be more strategic about how we measure engagement, and all the stuff we bought on the sales side as well, big machines, all the content management capabilities to have a really robust products and reference system. So it was like 14 different acquired companies that we said we're going to take those concepts and rewrite it as one unified suite. And we've just released our first version of that internally for Oracle to use. It's rolled out to 30,000 sellers, and all our marketing campaigns are running on it.
Oh, great. All right.
So
When's
hopefully it works.
When's the GA coming out for the rest of the world?
GA is, like a lot of things in cloud, it will continue to come out. There's no sort of big bang release, but we have some pilots going today, and we'll start to, in the new calendar year, start to distribute it more broadly.
Got it. Let's shift to more of the B2C side of the world. So one of the things I'd love to get your view on is Oracle's unique in that you have a data warehouse, you have a CDP, you have all these other execution tools, et cetera. What's your view on this, the data warehouse space, the composable or unbundled CDP, et cetera, and how are you going to market with those solutions?
So reverse ETL now that's data transformation, right? Basically, but it's got a good buzzword on it now, which is cool.
Good money coming in, yeah.
I think I think it's introducing a solution that does not solve the problem. I think the core problem that CDPs are set out to solve is you need to aggregate data into some consistent format, some consistent structure, so you can actually run ML models against it, run AI against it, and actually turn it into something that is consistently actionable by the company. You cannot do that when you're pulling from, at least I haven't seen it done, when you're pulling from 40 different data sources and trying to do that on the fly. So I think CDPs, and you're right, I think that category is going to explode for far more than just MarTech.
Yep.
And data sanctuaries, it's a core part of that underneath that. People need a new way now to manage both the security and the liquidity of their data and to be able to do it across the entire journey. And that's a big part of what we're focused on. For a while, people used to say, why is Oracle in the ad tech, MarTech business? But now that it's all about data, we've been 40 plus years in that business of securing the world's data and adding behavioral and non-transactional signals to that is just another data type that we're going to use our same core tech to go after. So our solution starts with, we have our own cloud, which is growing very well. We have our own data sanctuary clean room solution, which will be completely interoperable, as Larry called it at the Internet of Clouds, which is ultimately where we're going, and our own CDP solution that'll work with every execution system out there. But we think you have to, sort of with the same philosophy that we apply to database, you have to have a consistent way to manage your data and a consistent structure to really activate that in the right way.
In a core area that's obviously utilized and complementary to the CDPs, data clean rooms, is the whole identity ecosystem in play, and we talked a little bit about that. You guys have bought Crosswise many years ago. Do you have an identity solution yourself, or you partner with people, or what's your view on identity?
We are continuing to look at identity as a network of different ways of validating who you are. So we work, we announced we're partners on UID 2.0. We are continuing to look at partnerships in the area. We don't believe that any one company will be the future determinant of identity. And so we think it'll be a portfolio of solutions, some reg-based, some other identifiers, other first-party identifiers. As long as it's valid, permission, consented identity, we will continue to play in that space. And we're not going to try to propose the standard for that, nor do we think any one company should own that.
Great. One thing I don't think you've mentioned is AI, ML. Obviously, that's a buzzword that the entire industry uses. I believe you've talked about some of the capabilities of ML being utilized in verticalized solutions. Can you talk about what you're doing there? Yeah,
so a big trend I do see happening now, at the same time there's headwinds on MarTech, ad tech spend, and since this is the MarTech conference, we'll spend more time on that. What I do see is a lot of companies saying, okay, if I'm going to spend money on that, if I'm going to build a CDP for automotive or CPG or industrial manufacturing, give me something out of the box that accelerates my time to market in a real way. Because a lot of companies that you go into who say, oh, we have our own ML models, we have our own people, they really haven't used them at scale. They haven't used them in production. So when you we developed our CDP originally with a bring your own model concept. And when we got there, we said, great, we're ready to absorb your automotive models. People said, well, we actually haven't tested it at scale yet. So we released 15 industry-specific models with our CDP that's really the backbone of understanding what the customer attributes are that are relevant for that industry. If it's retail, average order value, time since last purchase, propensity to churn. You know, Ferrari, who's one of our customers, has a different way of trying to use their CDP to predict time to next purchase. Most people who have a Ferrari are in the market for another Ferrari soon, so they sell a lot to their same base. I wouldn't know much about it. But Mazda is another one of ours, and the same thing. They have a different set of attributes they want to look at, but they want those models to work right away. And so we built them natively into our CDP, and we're going after our front and back office on an industry-specific basis. So we're building flows that are unified. You know, for telco, we built our digital experience for communications. It's all about product launch. For utilities, we built how to manage the smart home. You know, as utilities move from, I send you a bill once a quarter, to now I manage all your appliances in your home. So it's a very specific way of showing that you can, out of the box, deliver value to an industry with an industry understanding of what their customer cares about and how to activate against that. I think that for companies, I mean, I would say this in this room, who are looking at MarTech solutions, the more you can verticalize that approach, I think the better you're going to be able to partner, at least with companies like us.
Makes sense. That's what we've seen is if you try to do kind of generic AI, you know, what is it? But if it's tuned for a specific area, purpose, et cetera, it can make a huge difference. I'd like to just really touch on our focus area, you know, M&A. So people don't know this. Rob actually ran Corp Dev at Adobe, now quite a long time ago. Then ran a business unit at Adobe, actually sponsored the Day Software acquisition. That's the Adobe Experience Manager that Lonnie now runs. But love to hear just you running a business unit. How do you decide, you know what, I need to go buy that business rather than partner or build?
Well, Oracle has a slightly different view than Adobe did, at least when I was there. And Oracle's view is, you know, we have 170,000 employees, and many of them are engineers.
Yep.
So there are very few things that we can't build. So if it's a feature, if it's a, you know, a unique thing that somebody did, the first question we're asked is, if we throw 2,000 people on it, could we build it? How quickly could we build it? And that makes it frustrating, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs to talk to Oracle at times, because they say, well, you know, you're undervaluing the investment that I made. But part of it is because our experience has been every time we buy a company, we need to rewrite it onto the core Oracle tech stack.
Yep.
And most startups don't use an Oracle database. That's something I've learned.
No longer.
Cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
But many are now using the Oracle Cloud, and they're using our database in the cloud. And so we look at companies that are in unique markets that need to be transformed, that we think we have an opportunity to really change. For example, why'd we buy Cerner? Healthcare, Larry talked about this at our conference, healthcare is the most inefficient market out there, particularly when it comes to patient records. Every hospital system has their own, every health network has their own. I can tell in everybody in this room in one central system what your credit worthiness is, but I have no idea how to access your health records, right? And so certain countries, you know, Singapore, Israel, have done this better, but in the United States in particular, this is a problem that we think Oracle is one of the companies that was uniquely equipped to solve. So a big market opportunity like that we think only we can solve, that's sort of on one end of the spectrum. And the other is, if there's something, if it's a team of people that we really think are smart and driven and focused and can work inside a big company, that's much more attractive to me than the tech, because I know I have to rewrite the tech. But it's hard to find really good people who have a passion about a particular area and a real focus on that industry. So we are acquirers. We're constantly looking at new businesses, but I spend a lot more time because of the Oracle model of knowing I'm not going to get there by showing, look at how great this tech is. I'm going to get there by saying, look at how capable this team is.
Yep.
And that's a big focus. And that doesn't mean it's an acqui-hire. It doesn't mean I'm not going to use the product and we're going to transition. It just means that's the real asset we're looking for, is the quality of the management and the engineering.
Got it. All right. Well, we're out of time. Really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.